So welcome everyone to our seminar tonight, Drop Your Anchor, Letting Go of the Emotional Struggle. I know we can all use this sort of information tonight as we're in the midst of the second wave and many of us are feeling isolated. I'd like to welcome Terri Klein. Terri is a teacher, an author, speaker, life coach, and creator of Mind Scholar. Which is a dynamic, science-based, and action-oriented curriculum. Through this program, she helps people, especially anxious and exhausted overthinkers, get to unstuck, become more emotionally flexible, and live more fully, even through adversity. So welcome, Terri, and you can begin.
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to everyone. I am feeling so grateful to be interacting with all of you. And from what I understand, we're going to be quite a large group tonight. And it's beautiful. In the virtual classroom, we can be any size. It's lovely. And Beth Tikva was my elementary school. So there's strong, beautiful memories here. So I'm hoping that you do have a way of taking some brief notes, either the old-fashioned, pen and paper, or whatever works for you. And of course, if that's not your style, you need not. It's just a suggestion. But because the topics flow very closely from one to the next, and of course, because you're muted, I'm going to ask that you please write all of your questions in the chat box, and I'm quite certain that we'll be able to address all of them in the Q&A after my presentation. So Gail, I'm just going to, move in now, begin, and as people keep coming, I'll leave that to you.
Yeah.
And thank you for arranging things and doing this with me.
No problem.
So I'd also like to tell all of you, please give yourselves permission at any point to get up and have a quick stretch of your body. Movement is so important for the mind and brain. So at any time, give yourself permission to do so. I just, with a wave hand, let me know, how's the volume? Is it okay? Can everyone hear me all right? Okay, super, wonderful, thank you. So the first thing I'd like you to do is really just give yourself permission to do a quick body scan with me. I really begin every single class that I do with a body scan, just to relax and release any tension in the body. It helps to quiet the mind, and it helps us to become present. And it also brings the brain into a learning state. So I want you to just get comfortable in your chair, find your posture, and for a few minutes, just close your eyes. And let's begin by taking 3 deep breaths in through your nose and slowly out through your nose. And as you breathe in and out, feel the weight of your body sinking into the chair, and feel your belly softening and expanding. Feel your neck and shoulders loosening, and your eyes and mouth forming a gentle smile. As you breathe in and out, bring awareness to your toes and focus on relaxing them. Now focus on your feet. Thank them for carrying you, for keeping you balanced and grounded. And when you begin, you may feel distracted or your thoughts may wander. And when this happens, simply return to your breath, relaxing the muscles of your toes and feet. Now begin to extend this relaxation exercise upwards by relaxing your calves and thighs. And as you breathe in, think about inflating a balloon within your belly. Continue to breathe in and out as you release the tension in your legs. Your mind will keep thinking thoughts, and you don't have to judge them. Just return to your breath and begin again. Your breath is your anchor. Next, relax the muscles of your abdomen and chest. Think about the gift of your sacred body and the miraculous interplay of cells, organs, and systems. Breathe in gratitude and appreciation. Next, think about relaxing the muscles all along your spine. Then move up to your shoulders and neck, which holds so much stress and tension, and breathe in and out as you relax and release. Now relax the muscles of your face and scalp. Notice the tension in your eyebrows, jaw, and tongue, and let it go as you focus on your breath. Feel your senses engage. Notice sounds, smells, and sensations within your body. If you notice yourself absorbed in a thought, label it internally by saying, thinking. Then gently come back to the breath and begin again. Now take a moment to acknowledge your all-powerful mind and brain. Breathe into that beautiful space between your ears. Relax and release. Now focus on your heart and think of relaxing your heart muscle as you slowly breathe in and out. Imagine it expanding and opening. Feel tender, loving kindness. Imagine your body now completely relaxed and experience the sense of simply being. And when you are ready, open your eyes. So I thank you for sitting together with me. And I want you all to know that it is so important to check in with your body periodically throughout the day. That is to consciously choose to pause and take a few deep breaths. And I call this the sacred art of pausing. It's a very important self-care practice. Now, of course, it's always been important, but now during COVID, it's especially important with the chronic anxiety and fear that so many of us are feeling. Also, finding 5 minutes or even 10 for a daily meditation is a truly wise investment. And there are so many apps to choose from. Really, the benefits are endless. Okay, so let's begin. This past March, something crazy happened, a global pandemic. And the two things we crave and need most are certainty and connection. And we were thrown into uncertainty and isolation. This brought with it so many new stressors and unexpected challenges. And many of us have been experiencing a new kind of grief that is a loss of the old normal. And as a result, we have oftentimes found ourselves and continue to find ourselves thinking very unhealthy thoughts and feeling intense and very uncomfortable emotions. And this new normal continues now 9 months later and will remain with us well into the future, which means that if we want to survive and continue functioning and living as fully as possible during COVID times, we need new skills to navigate our way through. So your decision to be here tonight was a hugely important one. So I thank you, each of you, for investing in your emotional health. Tonight, I will do my absolute best to take you through some really important concepts, and my intention is for you to leave here with some scientifically proven best practices for you to have in your back pocket for everyday use. So I'd like to begin by explaining some fundamental concepts and sharing some basic truths that I've learned over the years. Okay? Truth number one, we all have our struggles. When we struggle, we suffer. You see, it's the struggle, the resistance to what is happening that really creates the suffering. Now, most of us are here tonight because we want to learn how to reduce that struggle. That is to suffer less in COVID times and through any adversity. Not only do we all have our own set of challenges, But truth number 2 is we do all get to choose whether to respond or to react to them. Now, although that choice point does not always feel like it's there, it is. But the deeper spiritual truth here is this: it's not what is happening to you that is creating the suffering. It's how you're relating to it. So, like so many others, I used to think that all of my difficult thoughts and all of my uncomfortable feelings, well, they were the problem. They were the cause of my suffering. I understood that every thought creates a feeling and every feeling drives a behavior. And so I concluded that I needed to get rid of all of my negative thoughts and feelings, and then everything would be okay. That wasn't working too well for me. So then I learned truth number 3. The problem is not all of those negative thoughts and feelings, but rather how we relate to them, how we hook into them, how we attach to them, and we become possessed by them. So they dominate us and they control our behavior. So it's the hooking and the attaching that's the problem. It's kind of like a hypnotic trance. Nowadays, many of us are in the COVID trance. It's like the on button is jammed and we're hooking into a whole slew of negative thoughts and feelings around the messiness of our times and the uncertainty of our future. So what do people normally hook into? Well, we hook into the past with regret. We hook into the future with worry. We hook into negative self-judgments like shame and unworthiness. We hook into rules and social norms that dictate who we should be and what we should do. And this is our default setting, this unconscious hooking, and it is the problem. And why? Why is this our default, this hooking? Well, it's because of truth number 4. People would rather stay with the security of negative thoughts and beliefs, even if they're false, even if they're harmful and absolutely toxic. At least we know where we stand. They're familiar, they feel safe. Change means temporarily losing control and certainty. Now, I'm assuming that most of you here have experienced this kind of hooking, not just me. A visual cue would be greatly appreciated at this time, a nod or perhaps a raised hand to let me know that you've also had some of these COVID hooks, these moments. Okay, good, we're all normal. Now, I'm also assuming that your predominant COVID hooks are fear and anxiety, sadness and loneliness, grief, despair, and anger. Now, you showed up to this workshop to get help to reduce your emotional struggle and to build emotional flexibility, but there really is an important bigger picture here for you to see. You see, reducing the struggle has to begin with understanding emotions. And to become more flexible, you actually have to understand what it means to be rigid. And once you understand how emotions work, you can get better at recognizing, allowing, and even regulating them. Then you can become more emotionally flexible. And well, that changes everything. You become a more balanced person, a better communicator and listener. And this will strengthen all of your relationships and enhance all of the areas of your life. So prioritizing your emotional life and building emotional skills is critical. And it also makes it possible to face adversity, even a global pandemic, in a more sustainable way. That is, without burnout and emotional exhaustion from all of the daily stressors. So let's just talk briefly about emotions. Now, some people question the legitimacy of feelings and emotions, and please know that I'm going to use those two words tonight interchangeably. But every emotion is real. It's defined by science as an involuntary neurological response that really activates just about every system in your body. Emotions are cycles that happen in your body. By that, I mean they are energy in motion. And yes, they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. A great metaphor is that feelings are tunnels. You have to go all the way through them to get to the light at the end. It's so important to complete the cycle of an emotion, to process it all the way through and not get stuck in it. You see, it's the stuckness, the hooking, that creates the exhaustion and the suffering. Now, emotions are intelligent and they're actually very specific. For example, anger is usually about an injustice. Disappointment is about an unmet expectation. Resentment is about unfairness. Anxiety is about uncertainty. Now, most people have a very limited emotional vocabulary, so we also have to prioritize building emotional literacy. By that I mean, we have to expand our language so we can have more words on hand to better express how we're feeling, other than our basic words like mad, sad, glad, and of course, anxious. Think of emotions like the middle person. So every thought that you have in your mind creates an emotion in your body. Every emotion in your body drives a behavior. So we each have our own thought, feeling, action patterns. But when we hook into specific thought, feeling, action patterns, that's what makes us emotionally rigid. Now, being rigid versus flexible means that we respond to our emotions in one of three ways. While I'm describing these three ways, I'd like you to think about what you do when difficult emotions like anger, sadness, fear, or shame arise within you. Do you, one, obsessively stew in them, repeating and recycling them over and over in your mind? Do you hook into being right or being a victim? Or number two, do you bottle them up and push them aside and discount them? Do you shove them far down, bury them, and repress them? Or do you numb them so that you can't even feel them, using addictions like turning to food or alcohol or drugs or technology? Because unfortunately, we tend to avoid and or distract ourselves from our hard emotions by using these kinds of what we call exit strategies. And the third option is, do you actually try to turn them around and put on a happy face? And we call this forced positivity. I'd like you to close your eyes for a moment again. And I want you to imagine for a moment a spectrum of emotions, all the way from the most negative ones at one end, like shame, guilt, and hopelessness, to the most positive ones at the other end, like pure joy and optimism. And I want you to think about this. Do you give yourself permission to feel all of your emotions? Did your parents give you permission to feel? Did your teachers? What about your employers? Did you feel the pressure of cultural norms? Now think about what it's like in your immediate family. What do you model for your children or grandchildren? And what are your expectations of them? Do you consider all feelings to be legitimate and permissible? You can open your eyes. Many of us have been taught the positive emotions are good, but the negative ones, they're bad. And many of us have learned that it's not safe to express certain emotions because either people dismissed them, ignored them, or put them down. Many of us also continue to, unfortunately, buy into gender stereotypes, and we unconsciously shame and belittle others when we say things like, move on, toughen up, stop being so sensitive, or be a man, be a lady. Some people still believe that emotions are for weak people and that it's best to rise above them. Just know this: the use of exit strategies to avoid feeling our feelings means that, unfortunately, many of our emotion cycles are left incomplete. That's what makes us feel stuck and emotionally exhausted. Now, part of becoming emotionally flexible is about being able to go through life experiencing it 50-50. 50% positive emotion and 50% negative. Yeah, that's the norm. And learning how to acknowledge, recognize, and even allow every single feeling across that emotional spectrum. Now, what this means is keeping the heart open and present to experience all of our hard emotions, even our COVID hard emotions, like anxiety, anger, and sadness. It means allowing them to accompany us each day and actually live alongside the nicer, easier, kinder emotions like joy, peace, and courage, without allowing the negative ones to overtake our behavior. And we're going to learn more about how to do this shortly. I'd like us to try an exercise together, and it's called Hands as Thoughts and Feelings. So I want you to imagine for a moment that your hands are all of your thoughts and feelings, everything right here in your hands. I want you to look around you right now and imagine that everything you see represents everything that's important in your life. Then I want you to hold your hands together, palms open, as if they're the pages of an open book. And then I want you to slowly and steadily, and take a good 5 seconds to do this, raise your hands up towards your face until they're completely covering your eyes. And then I want you to take a moment and look around you again, this time between the tiny gaps between your fingers. And notice how this affects your view of the world. So what would it be like going around all day with your hands covering your eyes in this way, with your negative thoughts and feelings front and center, suffocating you? Think about how much it would limit you, how much you'd miss out on, how it would reduce your ability to engage and connect. This is what we mean by getting hooked. This is the trance. Now, cover your eyes with your hands again, but this time we're going to lower them slowly from your face. And as the distance between your hands and your face increases, notice how much easier it is to engage and connect. Now, this is what we call the unhooking. Now, whether you move your hands all the way down to your lap, or whether you move them all the way to the right or all the way to the left, or both, the distance or placement doesn't vary, may vary, but it doesn't matter. But the metaphor is clear. You can have those thoughts and feelings. You can still have them, but by practicing unhooking, you're keeping them now at a distance. They're now on the periphery, so it's kind of like a background hum. So when you're unhooking, you're learning how to relate to your mind in a new way and to create distance between you and your mind, between you and your thoughts and feelings. This also allows you to observe them without always having to interact with them. You see, thoughts and feelings will come and go, and sometimes we have very little control. But the real question we have to ask ourselves is, are we willing to have them, to honor and accept and allow all of them, and still behave appropriately and move towards what is important, towards a meaningful and values-based life despite them? This is perhaps a new way of thinking for many of you. Now, there's one more term I need to define before we discuss our best practices. And this term is called the window of tolerance. And it was coined by Dr. Dan Siegel. And he defines the window of tolerance as the optimal zone where we are able to manage and thrive in everyday life. And you can really think of it like your comfort zone, where your emotions feel tolerable. When you're inside your window of tolerance, you can tolerate the natural ups and downs of your emotions, and you're able to regulate your emotional state. But when you're outside your window of tolerance, that's when we're feeling threatened in some way. We're in a state of distress. We're hooked. Our nervous system goes into survival mode. We go into fight, flight, freeze. We get emotionally hijacked. Our emotions feel utterly intolerable, and we cannot regulate our fluctuating emotional states. Our brain, unfortunately, goes offline. We're not skillful. We're not resourceful. We cannot be kind or compassionate. We feel flooded and emotionally charged. Now, let's apply this. When anxiety or fear or any intense emotions arise, the first thing we need to recognize is whether we're inside or outside of our window. And this is going to determine what best practice or tool we can use. So now that we understand these fundamental concepts, we can begin to build a short list of best practices to serve as what I call our emotional first aid kit. It's kind of like a life preserver. Again, let's pause for a moment though to take a deep breath or two, because there's a lot to take in here. Again, feel free to take a quick stretch if need be. Okay, so let's first talk about creating a short list of best practices for when we're outside of our window. So if you recognize that you're hooking into a very uncomfortable emotion and you're starting to spin in a downward spiral fast, before you can begin any unhooking in your mind, you have to first calm your nervous system. And that involves going into your body. So how do we do that? In moments of extreme distress, a tool that's been proven to be very helpful is called grounding or anchoring. I like to call it drop the anchor because I feel it's a really helpful visual. So let's use an example of grounding and anchoring with anxiety, since this is a very prevalent emotion today. So let's say you're out and about, you're running your errands, and something happens that brings up feelings of intense anxiety. Perhaps someone close to you coughed. I think we all know what that can feel like these days. And if you start to feel anxious and panicky, this is what you can do. It says someone has come into the waiting room, just to let you know. If you start to feel anxious and panicky, the first step is to acknowledge it by saying, hey, here's my anxiety. This is my emotional storm. Then telling yourself it's time to anchor, and literally visualize yourself in a boat anchoring. And here's a script that you can use internally to get grounded. I'm scared, and that's okay. I can still breathe, and you take a few deep breaths. I can stand tall, and you notice your feet connecting with the ground. This is the grounding part. I can move my fingers, I can wiggle my fingers, I can wiggle my toes. Movement is grounding. My senses are all good. I can see, and then wherever you are, label something that you can see. I can hear, notice something that you're hearing. I can even touch, and it's really grounding to actually touch something. Pick it up and hold it if you can. Right now, I'm safe. I'm moving, I'm breathing, I'm sensing. I'm grounded and I'm okay. That's just an example of a script, and you can do that for as long as necessary. You can do it for a few seconds, you can do it for a few minutes until you feel ready to re-engage in your behavior. And what this does is it helps you to gain control in the present moment in your body. You can never go to your mind if your body is too hijacked. You have to first calm the nervous system. Now, naming the intense emotion that is overtaking you is so important. The research calls this process of mindfully identifying emotions mental noting. So whether it's fear, anger, or shame, the intention is to name it, to tame it. Now, what this does is it actually activates your prefrontal cortex, which immediately helps to reduce your emotional reactivity, all scientifically proven, all based on fMRI brain scans. Okay? So if you're ever questioning if anything that I'm offering tonight is just a bunch of spiritual woo-woo, please understand that everything I do is based in science. So here are a few other best practices for when you're outside of that window and you're feeling quite reactive. A practice is called self-soothing through touch. Now, many people like to put a hand on their heart, or one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, just as a gesture of kindness to self, as if to say, everything's going to be okay. I'm here. I'm holding you. It's as if you're ready and willing to accompany whatever's going on within you. Now you get to define your favorite ways to soothe through touch. Now there's another tool called resourcing, where you get to build your resource anchors. So when you're feeling so overwhelmed that you can't actually access compassion from within yourself, you can look outside of yourself to find sources of nurturing. And when you resource, you bring to mind a nurturing person, a nurturing scene, a nurturing memory, a phrase, anything that will evoke a sense of safety, of love, or belonging. For example, what do? I imagine being together with my grandfather or dear mother, who are no longer present. I imagine walking on a quiet beach with my dear husband. I imagine seeing my children happy, and smiling, or I imagine our sacred family hug. What you're looking for are sources of great joy. And then once you resource and you feel better supported, you're then able to listen to what wants attention within you. And then you can choose your self-talk, like, okay, I'm scared and that's okay, or this belongs, or I'm here for you and I'm not leaving. This kind of healthy self-talk can be very soothing. Now, just as an aside, I'd like to clarify something important about the phrase, this belongs. That phrase, this belongs, is a courageous acknowledging of the reality of the moment. It does not mean that the content of your fear is right. This is so important for us to understand. The fear that we are feeling, it sure is real. But the message of that fear, what your mind is trying to tell you, is so often untrue. You see, it's a fact that in the human mind, story trumps truth. And the mind can feel like a relentless fake news feed. So the tools that I have just mentioned, they're universal, they're science-based tools. They've been proven to calm the nervous system. But that being said, we're all wired very differently, so we each have to create our own pathways to nurturing, our own pathways to healing. So we have to define our own best practices. So let's take a moment again. Please close your eyes. And I'd like you to think about some of your potential resource anchors. Who is your nurturing person? What is your nurturing scene? Think about some of your favorite memories or peak experiences and ask yourself which ones you'd like to have on hand as your resource anchors. Think about what messages you would choose to send yourself. What are some words that really resonate for you? Think about some phrases that would feel most soothing. You can open your eyes. It is so important to define these ahead of time. When? Well, we actually define these when things are going okay in our world. That's when we have to experiment with these different tools. That's when we have to see what works, what doesn't work. Was that nurturing person successful? Was I able to use that person and help myself quickly calm down? Or no, do I need to choose a different resource anchor? But now is when we get to decide what are these best practices so that we can have our list ready in our back pocket for when we are not feeling okay. Now, another thing I suggest is it's great to have that little list handy for yourself, but it's also so important to offer that list to a loved one if possible. Because in certain moments, you may not be able to access your list and you may need a little bit of help. So you get to define your pathways to nurturing and try to share that list with at least one significant other. Okay? Now we're going to move on. We're going to move down the spectrum of reactivity. So we're going to travel across this spectrum and we're going to find our way now to a place that feels less overwhelming, but still uncomfortable. And let's build a short list of best practices for when we're here, when we are inside of our window, where we can still feel uncomfortable, but no, we don't have to calm the nervous system anymore. Now we can calm the mind. Now we can allow our emotions. Now we can learn how to commit to values-based behaviors. So the first tool I'd like to share is a meditation practice called RAIN. And this was popularized by meditation teacher Tara Brach. And it's a tool to build emotional awareness and flexibility and to help with emotional healing. Tara says it's a tool that awakens mindfulness and compassion and applies them to the places where we feel stuck. She says it untangles emotional suffering. So the practice of RAIN works especially well with anxiety to transform it, but of course it can be used with any uncomfortable emotion and the best thing, with any age group. Parents have even been taught to use this with their young children, of course, a simplified version, but it absolutely works. So RAIN is an acronym that defines a 4-step process. And like I always tell people, it's easiest to learn something when you practice it. So let's practice it together, the 4 steps, by closing your eyes. And let's use this RAIN to help with an example of anxiety. So I'd like you to bring to mind a belief that causes anxious feelings and suffering in your life. It could be a belief about the pandemic, about your future, anything really, one that brings up feelings of anxiety. And I want you to keep your eyes closed, and let's focus first on the R in RAIN, which is for recognize. And this first steps asks you to become mindful and just ask yourself, what's happening inside of me? So it's about pausing, naming, and noticing, what is this emotion? It's the mental noting that we talked about. Now, typically what people would say is, I'm anxious, but I'm going to encourage you to say, I'm noticing anxiety arising. Just as an aside, it's so important not to say, I am, with any emotion, because the emotion never defines all of you, always. It only defines a part of you in this moment that you're aware of. So in this first step, you've recognized your anxiety arising. Step 2, the A in RAIN is for allow. This step asks you to become mindful and ask yourself, okay, can I be with this? Can I simply let this be? It doesn't mean I'm liking it or wanting it. I'm just acknowledging the reality of it. I'm saying yes to what's here. Again, the phrase, this anxiety belongs. Real, but not true. Some people really appreciate this metaphor. Just like every wave belongs in an ocean, every emotion belongs. So we just want to offer the anxious feeling some space to become present. The I in RAIN is for investigate. This third step allows you to dig a little deeper. So we first investigate in the mind by asking, what am I believing right now? What's my fear story? Now again, you can name the story. It's the same thing, name to tame. Oh, I'm noticing my safety story arising. Then we can investigate within the body. Where does this belief live in my body? Where am I feeling this discomfort? We want to contact that feeling. We want to be able to feel into the vulnerability. And to properly heal, we need to ask, what does this fear need? Does it need to feel safe? Does it need to feel held, accompanied, accepted? Again, we're giving it more space. This is how we become present with what is, rather than what could be and what should be. Finally, the N in RAIN is for nurture. And this fourth step is about practicing active compassion. These days, they say that survival of the nurtured is far more appropriate than survival of the fittest. The key is for you right now to let in the nurturing. Let the anxious, fearful place feel held in something larger. Again, you might send that message, I care, I'm listening, I'm here with you, and I'm not leaving. Again, resourcing is also an important part of this nurturing. And if you find it too difficult to find that compassion within, again, you get to turn to your nurturing person to help you. But the intention is to offer any gesture of care inwardly and let it be received. So now you can open your eyes. And what this entire process does, it helps you to do what we called a U-turn. You know what a U-turn is when you're driving? Well, you're going to go in the other direction. So we're trying to do a U-turn from a hooked trance-like state into presence, simply being present with what is. Now, it's really important to practice taking a time out and calling on this rain practice whenever you feel stuck. And sometimes it takes more time and energy because it is a meditation, but sometimes you can do it really fast, and especially the way the kids do it. And I'll give you one example right now. Tara was sharing, Tara Brock, that in one of her podcasts, she explained once that a little girl who was 4 years old, her mother taught her how to use this practice. And one day recently when she went to school, she was feeling anxious and she went over to her cubby, which was her safe space, and she took a few minutes and she did rain. And when she came home that day, she told her mom how much it helped her. So you would be amazed at what children can do if you teach them these basic trainings as well. But the point is, we need these trainings. And of course, we don't get them in school. So that's a whole other thing. Don't get me started. So because rain is about compassion and acceptance, I actually feel that I need to clarify the meaning of the word acceptance because it's so frequently misunderstood. So acceptance is not approval. It's not indifference, passive resignation, or defeat. Acceptance means I'm accepting what's happening. Again, not because I don't like it, not because I don't care, not because I've given up, but bless you, because it's already happening. Acceptance means that we open our eyes and we look straight into whatever is happening, so we can see it more clearly and we can find ways to respond more appropriately and more effectively. As I said to you, when we are in reactive, hijacked mode, no access to any of that effectiveness. Resistance only begets more suffering, but acceptance brings peace and possibility. So now we're going to continue to travel across the spectrum that we were talking about, this spectrum of reactivity, to a place that feels less overwhelming, but more stressful and frustrating now. So now we're at the end that's really stressful. So there are times when all that we need are quick, easy, and simple unhooking tools that can help us to self-regulate when we're inside of our window. And with these, we can even get playful and we can be fun and creative. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you're stressed out child or blurted out something like, I hate you, and you're an awful parent. Now, you know that your child didn't really mean it, but it triggered something bigger around your feelings of unworthiness and perhaps rejection. And you find yourself ruminating and obsessing. Now, not only are your child's words hurtful and they're playing on repeat, but so are all of your thoughts. Oh, after all that I've done for you, how could you be so ungrateful? How could you be so rude and disrespectful? And your mind is playing on and on. Where are her manners? How did I raise him? And this relentless voice, I have a great little prop for this one. It's my chattering teeth. You know, it's just that relentless voice. I'm hoping you can see that, you know, the chattering that doesn't stop in the mind. So remember, your thoughts are real, but oftentimes not true. You don't have to believe your thoughts. It's so important to remember this. After all, what are these thoughts? They're just strands of words strung together by you, right? So think about it this way. If you created those strands of words into thoughts, then you can uncreate them so that they lose their power and don't activate or trigger you in the same way. And there are lots of playful ways that we can reduce the intensity of those thoughts. And those thoughts are otherwise known as sentences in your mind. So we can learn ways to do what I call soften the sentences in your mind. Let's have a little fun with this. Again, I always ask you to close your eyes because it's the way you're going to get immersed in doing the practice. So if you're frustrated by all the closing of your eyes, don't close your eyes. If you find it helpful, please do so. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about now a stressful thought. If you're finding it hard to think of one, I can give you one. Life is hard, messy, and confusing. That's a pretty stressful thought. Life is hard, messy, and confusing. But if you have your own, please bring that sentence to your mind and hold it there and replay the words. Get that mental chatter so that it feels loud, clear, and relentless. Life is hard. Life is messy. Life is confusing. Then I want you to visualize a dimmer switch, what we normally use to adjust the intensity of light. Some houses, they have it on the wall beside the light switch where you can make the light stronger or you can make it dimmer. And if you understand what this switch means, I want you to visualize yourself pushing it down and using it to lower the volume on your loud mind chatter. And play with it a bit. You can raise it, raise the volume, lower it, lower the volume. And see how that works for you on those ruminative thoughts. I find this a very, very helpful and practical tool for me, and many of my clients love it. But because we're all very different, I always say, let's learn different tools and then play around with them and see which ones resonate. So we can try another one. I call this one the magic eraser. So you can close your eyes if you'd like, and you can bring to mind that same stressful thought, the same words. Life is hard, life is messy and confusing, and visualize yourself writing it on a chalkboard. And see the sentence there on a big blackboard, large and clear. And then pick up an eraser in your mind and start erasing parts of it, or even all of it. And then some people like to draw something or write some kinder words to replace them, or not. It's your choice. But the whole point is you get to experiment with your level of playfulness. And here are a few others that have been proven to work. You can try to imagine one of these stressful thoughts on a big billboard somewhere or on a huge computer screen. You can change that heavy, stressful thought by changing the font and making it more playful. You could change the color. You could change it and make it a neon pink. You could change the format. You can add a bouncing karaoke ball. You can do whatever your imagination allows you to do. You can say your stressful thoughts in a silly animated voice. You can sing it to a familiar tune. You can say it loud. You can say it really slowly. But what are you doing? In all of these cases, you are softening those stressful sentences. And as an aside, if you're skeptical about visualization, just know that not only is it scientifically proven to prime your brain, but it's used by all of the top teams and athletes in sports, Olympians. I tell you, those who get the gold, silver, all of those, and bronze, those are people who have visualized different kinds of visualizations. But in these cases, you are also getting playful through visualization. So there are a lot of different ways to soften sentences. Now, obviously, you cannot take this playful approach when you're talking about unhooking from painful thoughts, that's at the other end of the spectrum, and we already talked about different tools for that. So you have to recognize where you are on the spectrum of reactivity will determine what tools and best practices you should be choosing. Now, once you learn how to label and allow all of your emotions, and you've been practicing acceptance and unhooking strategies for a while, you will undoubtedly become more emotionally flexible and, thankfully, self-aware. It takes time and practice, but eventually your default will also shift from reactive and trance-like states that you hook into to a simply more mindful presence where you can lean into whatever is arising and let go of the struggle. Just know this, whatever we practice, that's what gets stronger. Practice acceptance and compassion, unhooking and emotional regulation, mindfulness and the sacred art of pausing, and they get stronger. And then these are the muscles that you build. So yes, we can maintain a balanced, open-hearted presence, even in the midst of the storms of life, even now, in the midst of perhaps one of the greatest storms, COVID. And we need to build the skills now that will long outlive this pandemic and serve us for a lifetime. We really do have to prioritize our emotional lives and invest in our self-care today and always. So there are so many practices and so many more concepts to understand to help you with this emotional struggle. And I would be so happy to offer more of them to you in other ways. But now that I'm done tonight's presentation, I would just like to take a moment or two before the Q&A to speak briefly about my other offerings. So I offer these one-night introductory workshops like this one. I offer these to shuls, community centers, organizations, even Hadassah chapters. I also offer more intensive weekly series. I offer family workshops, and I offer one-on-one telephone coaching. Now, just to let you know, in mid-January, I will be launching my new 6-week workshop series where you'll learn how to continue this, where you build your emotional emergency response toolkit. You'll learn how to quiet the overthinking mind. You'll learn how to nurture your body's natural antidepressants. You'll learn how to communicate more effectively, the truth about forgiveness, healthy change, and habit formation. So I'd be happy to share more of these details with you. And I'd also be happy to share my monthly blog and notifications for, my upcoming workshops. So if you are interested in any of these, what I'm going to ask you to do is please write your name if you know how to do so. Please write your name in the chat box now. And if you need help in doing that, once we unmute you, Gail can move you through that. And if you feel comfortable, you can indicate what you're interested in beside your name. But either way, I will get in touch with you. And if you know how to privately add your email address, you can do so. And again, no worries if you don't. I will be able to get that from Gail, right? Okay. What I will also do is I'm going to now copy and paste, or at the end, I will copy and paste my contact information into that same chat box so that if you'd like to, connect with me, then you can do the same. The other thing I want to just briefly say is I've also written 2 books. This is one of them. I've written Life Unwrapped and Mind Unlocked. And if you are interested in reading any of them, they are all about life from birth through to death, poetry mainly, poems that you can understand. And if you'd like to learn anything or to read them, by all means, get in touch with me and we can talk about, me mailing them to you or whatever. So I want to finish the presentation with a very short poem right before the Q&A that I absolutely adore. As a matter of fact, I've memorized it, and after my morning prayers, I say it out loud. Peace is this moment without judgment. Does peace require an absence from your boss, your spouse, yourself? Do you think peace will come some other place than here? Some other time than now? In some other heart than yours? Peace is this moment without judgment. That is all. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. Peace is this moment without thinking that it should be some other way, that you should feel some other thing, that your life should unfold according to your plans. Peace is this moment without judgment. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. I thank you all for being here. I would love to stay connected with all of you. And I'm thinking that we need to get up and quickly stretch before we unmute and begin the Q&A. Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. All right. Oh.
Thanks, Terri.
Okay.
We do have a question I see here in the chat. It's from Barbara. And she's asking, is the RAIN technique, is that appropriate for children with attention deficit disorder?
Okay, well, attention deficit disorder, there's a spectrum. Same with any of these things. It depends on how much understanding and awareness there is. That's the only answer I can give you. If they understand what it means, recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. Otherwise, absolutely not. That's the best answer I can give you there.
So I'm gonna unmute, and if people have questions, they can ask. One moment.
I see Debbie raised hand. Is that...
Yeah. Ruthie, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do actually.
Can I see Ruthie?
Would Terri have a suggestion?
Oh, there you are, Ruthie. Okay.
For getting old hurts out of your mind.
Sorry, it was a little muffled. I need you to try that one more time. I did not.
Could you hear me?
I can't hear.
You're a little muffled.
I wonder if you can
put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat because I'm losing every other word.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's try again. Ruthie? Oh, she's muted.
Is there a suggestion how to get rid of old hurts?
Old hurts. How to get rid of old hurts. Letting that go.
Old hurts.
Yeah.
Old hurts mean old narratives, old stories that we have given, that we hold on to like grudges and resentments. And those become toxic to our bodies. And giving ourselves permission to forgive those hurts does not mean necessarily that we are forgiving those people nor what they have done. But forgiveness is, in a sense, a gift to self But you don't even necessarily have to forgive, as long as you can open your heart and find some little bit of compassion or even empathy for those people or those events. We just have to understand that we are carrying those stories forward. And sometimes we are passing them from one generation to the next. Sometimes someone has to step in and challenge that story. We have to try to let it go. You know, the whole thing about surrender and, you know, letting go and accepting what is, again, it doesn't mean defeat or that we're giving in. It means it's what happened and we would like to move forward. Does that help?
Forward.
But the
Thank
only
you.
way, you do have to uncover those hurts. You do have to be able to express those feelings and that grief to yourself. And sometimes you need to do that with a therapist, because opening up those wounds can be very painful. But those are blockages that need to be unblocked. Make sense?
Thank you.
Okay.
Wow.
Bagel, did you want to say something?
No, no.
Okay. Anyone else have a question or a comment?
Yeah, you know, feedback is helpful. And I'm assuming that you're each going through, you know, a lot of your own stuff right now. And, you know, I'd be happy to help in any way possible.
Terri, we have a lot of members who are living alone right now.
Yes.
Do you have any coping suggestions or tools that they can use?
Well, again, practicing RAIN with this loneliness, I mean, being able to have that self-talk to self, like, I am feeling so lonely in this moment, and this loneliness belongs. But if I can access some of those resource anchors, you know, perhaps I don't have to be feeling so alone. Now, also, obviously, those things like trying to connect more virtually, trying to look through old photo albums to have accessible memories, right? Looking through old journals, reading through old books, like things that will help to bring us alive. Going on to, if it's Bakerest, all these different places where they're offering all of these courses and keeping ourselves stimulated, no matter what age. We are all lonely right now. But yes, if you're completely alone, obviously you're feeling lonelier. We need to acknowledge and recognize that. We need to allow it. We need to go inside and see where that is sitting. And we need to nurture ourselves through that loneliness. If we hate that loneliness, if we beat ourselves up around that loneliness, we only feel worse, right?
I had someone sending me a comment. Terri, in your opinion, do you think it's worthwhile understanding why you think the way you think from childhood, or should one just focus on the present?
Sometimes it's important to see that pattern started.
Can I call you back? I'm just
Just
finishing
from
off the Zoom course.
that-
Okay.
1 second, I'm just going to mute everyone so you can answer.
Okay.
Oh, wait, sorry, wait. Terri, I accidentally muted you.
Got
There
it.
you go.
Sometimes we're feeling so badly about what we have, and it's important to know that our parents had it or our grandparents had it, and we're not feeling so alone. And sometimes it is important to see where things came from. But as a life coach, I tell people to focus on the present and on the future. The past is now out of our control. There is nothing that we can change about those circumstances, The only thing we can change is our thoughts and stories and narratives about those circumstances. We can change the beliefs that are limiting us in the present moment and that are keeping us in a tight, small box and preventing us from moving forward. So I say, sometimes with a therapist if necessary, access the past if need be. If you feel the need, yes, sometimes the blockages are so deep that we really need to be able to dig through some of that dirt. However, in other times, we really need to focus on what are our blockages and blind spots in the present. And usually they're within limiting beliefs and irrational thoughts and mind traps that only we can control. And certainly we can get help to help ourselves move that. But being present focused and future focused, that's where I like to put more of my time and energy. That's where I have a greater element of control. And of course, I only have control in this present moment. I can set my mind up for a future vision and set myself up for success. But my control is in this present moment, but I'm still planning for the future.
We also have a question from Frida Gottesman, Brender,
Yes.
and she'd like to ask it directly to you.
Sure,
So
you can
she is
unmute.
unmuted.
Okay.
There are many times when I'm just sitting and I get a negative thought, or I feel isolated, or I don't know what the future is going to be. So I get up. The question is coming. I get up
Take your time.
and I start doing exercise. I go into an exercise class, or I go outside, or I buy something, or I can't even get on the phone with people that I care about. I can't even do that. Or I cook, or I eat. So am I suppressing it, or am I, like, I don't know whether I'm just suppressing all my feelings. I know that I'm not feeling good. I'm not going to stay there.
No, I
And
hear
I'm not
you.
going to
And
go to sleep.
it's a
because
great question. It's a great question.
I
And
wanted to go to
many
sleep.
people have asked it, Frida. So it's a very intelligent question. And I will tell you that it's both. Sometimes it's great to distract ourselves. That's a little distraction. Okay, it's a little exit strategy. But the question is, do you keep coming back to that same ruminative thought? Do you keep coming back to that heavy boulder, to that weight? Because if you do, you need to do rain on that particular deep, hard emotion, or you need to do a more playful thing with that stressful thought. But the answer to your question is one you have to ask yourself, are you burying it? And you come right back from the cooking and right back from the outdoors or right back from the exercise, and it's bang there, right there in front of you. And that's where it's saying,
I get rid of it.
hold me, be with me. Allow yourself permission to say, I am so lonely in this moment, and that's okay. And perhaps you can do a short guided meditation on how to go inside, open the heart, and just be with the different sensations within your body. What about trying that?
I'm afraid.
Yes, and a lot of people are. So I say, Frida, one baby step at a time, one baby step at a time. And your self-talk may not be, good morning, Frida, I love you and everything's going to be okay. Doesn't have to be so extreme, but it can be, okay, Frida, I know this feels hard right now, honey, but we can do this together, because wise Frida knows that Frida can do this. It may feel hard, but Frida can do this. And we're going to do this together. And if you need to call a good friend and say, hey, I need your hand for a moment, and I need you to be my accountability buddy, and I need you to do something with me. I need you to role play. I need you to listen to me for a moment and tell me, how does this feel? Because I need to create a script for myself right now, and I'd like your opinion on it. That might work too. So use your imagination. It sounds like you have a great imagination. You do all these different things. So sometimes just bring that imagination internally.
Terri?
And a journal, if you like journaling. I
Yeah,
love,
that's what I've been doing. I've been journaling.
I have at least 5 different journals on my bed table, depending on the night. One is a positive one is a more difficult one, a heavier one is life lessons. Writing is, well, I mean, I'm a writer, so I need to write.
Terri, can you take a moment and put your contact information in the chat section?
Sorry, gonna do that this moment. Okay, so I'm gonna just copy and paste, and I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna go to the chat. All right, and I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna hit paste. And does everyone see that now? There's my name, there's my phone number, there's my email, and there is my website. But again, it's harder for me to reach out, I don't know how tech savvy everyone is and if people are going to reach out to me, but I would also like to let you know that, I would love to connect with you, and I would love to let you know if you liked this, that, I'm offering a different one here or there. And I'd love to know if you're interested in the workshop. So if you could put your name there, I would so appreciate permission connecting with you. This 6-week workshop is gonna be fabulous, and it's really applicable to all ages. And I don't like selling myself or selling things, but this is
sorry,
going to be
Terri,
very COVID helpful.
I'm going to interrupt. We don't see your information in the chat.
Oh, did it go to private? Oh, hold on. I didn't. How do I change it from
You have
private?
to change it to everyone.
I have to put it to everyone. There we go. And it, again, paste and send.
And worst case,
Wait, why did
people
it show
can contact me.
private? Wait a second. Everyone publicly and private. That's what I clicked on. But it's showing when I do it. Did you see that yet publicly?
No.
That makes no sense because I went into my chat. Hold on, I'm going to do it.
Do you want me to try and put up your website?
Chat. Can you put up the whole thing? Can I just text it to you and you could just put up everything? It makes no sense. Hold on a sec. Oh, is it because I'm not on speaker? No, chat. Go into chat. It's not.
You have to press enter on the computer if you haven't pressed enter. Maybe that's it. Someone's suggesting to us.
I hit enter. Hold on. So I hit chat. And then but it's showing to Sandra. I don't know why it's showing to Sandra B. Type here. And it's showing to Sandra.
Right, where it says type here, it says on the top, it should say to everyone.
Oh, on the chat.
Yes.
So I'm doing welcome to.
See where it says type here? Right above it says.
Okay, hold on a second.
To.
So it says close or pop out. No.
Where it says to Sandra or to everyone, just click that arrow and you'll see something there.
So I clicked to Sandra. Oh. So it says Sandra.
Okay, click the arrow.
Everyone in meeting. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yay, you guys are teaching me. I love it. And now I hit enter. Please tell me that.
Yes, finally.
Oh,
yay!
Yay! I have this story in my mind and I'm working on changing it, and it's the Terri and technology story. And so I'm getting better. And as a matter of fact, I will actually be doing breakout rooms and screen sharing soon. I'm going to be challenging myself. So very excited.
Good.
But thank you for guiding me and teaching me. I appreciate you being my teachers.
If anyone else would, I'll unmute everyone again. 1 second.
I would love to meet everyone. Who do I have here? I can see Lionel. Hi, Lionel.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Rona. Where are names? Hi, I only see iPhone. Frida, Ruthie, Linda, hello. Debbie, and you're with someone, Debbie Solomon. Hi to your.
Yes, that's Dan, yep.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Erwin Davis. Hi, Daigle. Who else is here? Let me go to the next. I
Oh,
see
wait.
Ellen. Hi, Ellen. Scott. Hi. Linda. Garshon, but I'm seeing a different person. I'm
Yes,
seeing
that's her husband.
Hi, Garshon family. And then we've got Chuck. Hi, Chuck. See, I like to see everyone. At least say hello once. Rosalind.
Terri,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
just wondering, any narrative? I keep telling myself I hate technology. I'm kibitzing a bit.
I mean,
And
I'm not going
hate-
to tell you. I'm not going to tell you to say I love it, but I am going to tell you to say I am capable of learning new things. That's what I love.
Is it possible we go back to the old radio with the knob? You know, maybe you weren't around. I know. Okay.
Here's the thing. Me and my pen are still best friends. I still love pen and paper. I am still traditional, and before any blog or any poem goes on my computer, it first goes on pen and paper. But let me keep saying hello. Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Tashner. Are you related to Wayne?
Yep.
Oh, good man, good man. I have chronic pain, so I happen to know the man well. Stephen Creed. Hi, Stephen. Oh, I love that headset. That is amazing. I got to try that one day.
Yeah.
That's like you can really hear well, eh?
I see quite a few of my friends on here.
Oh, I
Oh,
love
good.
that.
Maryland,
Oh, that's
and
great.
Harold Bricks and Sheldon and Maryland.
Oh, I love that men are here because it's so important for you guys to be able to build your emotional muscle. And, you know, there's a lot of gender stereotypes that guys are supposed to be not supposed to be vulnerable. They're not supposed to be feeling their feelings. I want to tell you that's a bunch of hogwash. And if you want to survive today, you have got to learn about feelings. So hello, Barbara. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Helena's iPad. Hello, Barbara Fox Adelstein. Hello,
Alina.
Green. Oh, look at Barry Green. What a nice picture.
Yeah.
Hello,
Very, or is it Lisa?
Lisa. Martin Roshworg, Sarah Lakin.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I miss anyone? Okay.
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Rona, do you say hello to Rona Armel?
Rona.
Oh, hi, Rona.
So is there anyone, anything I missed? Anything anyone wants me to touch upon?
No, that's good.
Anybody, I want you to understand that like anything, we don't awaken overnight. You know, we learn things one baby step at a time. And the awakening is not like, hey, I've awakened and then every moment of every day I'm all good. That's just not the way it works. Even me where I am, you know, studying this every day and teaching this every day, I still fall off track. I'm still a human being, but because we learn best practices and we learn new habits and we start practicing them, the point is we start remembering more than we forget. We start remembering to pause more than we forget. We start remembering, okay, let's be mindful in this moment. Okay, no reason to beat myself up in this moment. It's okay. So it's one tiny baby step at a time. So if there's the greatest lesson I want you to leave with is no matter what our age, we don't want life happening to us. We want to have a part in that co-creation. Don't wake up and say, oh gosh, how is life going to happen to me today? Try this, it's sort of cool. Hey, I wonder what wonderful and magical things are going to happen to me today. That's called brain priming. That's called neuroscience, not woo-woo spirituality, neuroscience. You've got a neuroplastic brain. It's waiting to be rewired. Do it. You're totally capable. And don't tell me, I'm 70, I'm 80, it's too late, I'm 90. You rewire, and I just ordered a book on this called Livewired. You rewire until the day you stop breathing. Your neurons keep regenerating, your telomeres are functioning, you're all good. As long as you're breathing, you are changing the structure and function of your brain. But what I also want you to be doing is not just breathing automatically, but start consciously breathing. Start taking deeper breaths throughout your day. Notice that you're alive and you're okay, and have a few moments of gratitude. And in the next moment, you can have a moment of disgust and helplessness. But in the next moment, you may come back to gratitude. And you know what? People say, this is crazy. Like, I think I'm crazy, but that's a COVID thing. That's what COVID is doing to us. Give yourself permission to understand. In 1 hour, you may be okay, but in the next minute, you may be not okay.
Thank you, Terri, for this wonderful session. And it was quite helpful. I'm feeling much more
Everyone enjoy?
relaxed.
Did you enjoy? Was it helpful?
Yeah,
Very good.
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.